Close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.
All right, Duke fans, this is the preview we have been waiting for a long, long time. DBR Bites, episode number 145. This will be the episode of the DBR where I may speak the least that I ever speak, except like in interview episodes, obviously, because we are looking ahead to the contest against the Michigan Wolverines, and I, Jason Evans, know the least about Michigan of the three people on this podcast, for sure. I'm joined by my usual partner in crime, Donald Wine, and by the guy who is often replacing me when I'm on vacation and the such, Scott Rich. And for those of you who do not know, who have not been paying attention for the past year or so, Donald and Scott, though they are both huge Duke fans, are only slightly less Michigan fans. They know the Wolverines. They have guys. So wait, Scott, I'm going to ask you first. How many Michigan games do you think you have seen this year?
I've seen every Michigan game that hasn't been directly competing with a Duke game or on the West Coast because the Big Ten is idiotic, just like the ACC.
Donald,
so
how many Michigan games do you think you've seen?
I've seen them all. And the great thing is obviously my family are big Michigan fans. And so my dad and I, when we talk first about Duke basketball, and then we'll talk about Michigan sports. So he watches all the games.
Ditto.
So that allows me to watch and then be able to, talk with about it. Sometimes we're talking during the game, just about how, as we'll talk about how strong a team Michigan is. Jason, let's just say it. This is one of the biggest games in a regular season in a very long time. It's one versus two.
Wait. Not for Duke, I don't think. For Michigan, for sure. This may be
just in general, Jason. This is the most expensive ticket, in Capital One Arena history.
That's true,
right now.
Yes.
It's Final Four level prices for this game. It's
correct.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's more expensive.
Asked me if I could sell it. My wife asked me if I should sell our tickets to, go for the college fund, which we are not doing, by the way. But there was a serious conversation about that.
I got the ticket information for the Final Four, and the regional is going to be here. This ticket is more expensive than that. So, yeah, this is big deal.
Yeah, Scott, you could sell your ticket and go on vacation.
Yeah.
I remember many years ago, I had tickets to a Final Four, and my wife said, we could sell the tickets and buy a big screen TV. This was back when big screen TVs were like a really big deal. Mm-hmm. And I paused. I was like, oh, wow. I could watch every game on it. Ooh, I was like, And then I went, no, I'm going to the Final Four.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to break the little piggy bank open, so to speak.
All right. So as we embark on this, I am primarily taking the role of a guide, steering you guys along. Scott's going to kind of take my usual role. He's going to talk about the players. I'm going to talk a little bit about the metrics, because the metrics are the metrics, whether you've seen them play or not. I'm sure you guys will have comments on them, but whether you've seen them play or not, you can discuss what the numbers say. I can do that anyway. But before we get to any of that, Donald, tell us a little bit about what Michigan has done this year in terms of their record and who they played and who they've beaten the absolute bejesus out of, because the answer is pretty much everybody.
Yes. Before, Jason, I get started, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a couple of things that are happening on Saturday before the game. Of course, we have talked on the show, I think briefly, about the fact that College Game Day will be at the Capital One Center on Saturday. I believe it starts at 10 o'clock. Ticketmaster has free tickets for that. So you can go, I think, as of right now still, and claim a free ticket to that. Also, there will be an open shoot-around for both teams. I believe Duke's open shoot-around will be immediately after College Game Day is over, around 11 o'clock. There is also a pregame for Duke fans at City Tap House in Chinatown. I am one of the people who are helping to run that thing, so I will see everybody there. It says on there to book a reservation. You don't need to book a reservation. You are able to still show up, have the time at the bar. I will be there probably around 3:30, 4 o'clock. So come out and have a good time. And if you don't have tickets to the game, that will be where you can watch the game. But obviously for people who have tickets, come a little bit early, have a good time, and then let's go inside Capital One. I've said enough about before the game. Let's get to the game and talk about the Michigan Wolverines. 25-1 on the year, 15-1 in the Big Ten. They are first in the Big Ten. We've done so many ACC games. I just put them in the ACC for a second. I'm sorry. But they have 17 top 100 wins. I'm not going to list them all, but they have 17 of them. That is a ton. They've beaten Ohio State twice. They've beaten Michigan State. They've beaten Nebraska. They've beaten Purdue just the other day. And their only loss on the season was a 91-88 loss at home on January 10th to Wisconsin. Jason, you mentioned the fact that they were killing folks early in the season. And yes, they were. They are the first team, I believe, in like 35 years to have 3 straight 30-point wins over ranked opponents. And they did that 3 days in a row. They beat San Diego State by 40. They beat Auburn by 30. And they beat Gonzaga by 40 in the Players Era Championship. This is a really, really good team. They've scored over 100 points 8 times. They're number one in everything. They're number one in every poll. They're number one in every computer. And most computers, whether it be Ken Palm, The Net, Evan Mia, rate this as a 1 versus 2 matchup. There are only 2 teams in college basketball that have 10 quad 1 wins. They will both line up against each other on Saturday night here in D.C. Michigan, 10-0 in quad 1 games. Duke, 10-2 in quad 1 games. And Jason, as you get into the metrics, Michigan right now, a 2.5-point favorite in this game, but this is really a toss-up. I know Ken Palm has it by, it was 1 point for basically, they had Michigan by 1 point for basically all season until last night when they beat Purdue. Now it's 2 points. So this is basically the 2 best teams right now in college basketball going at it on the floor here in DC, and it's going to be a monster.
All right, so let me quickly do a little bit of the metrics, and folks, you're going to be scared when I Scott's laughing too. When I go through these metrics, you're going to be like, what are we supposed to do against this team again? How are we supposed to succeed? As mentioned, Michigan is number 1 in Ken Palm. But it's worth noting, they are approaching sort of really hallowed ground in terms of, I know Duke's number 2, but there's a pretty good gap there between number 1 and number 2 because Michigan has been blowing teams out so badly. This Michigan club's, overall like Ken Palm efficiency rating, and it's worth noting from year to year, these things fluctuate a lot because, the average team and all kinds of other stuff like that. So comparing teams across different eras is imperfect at best. That said, this Michigan team is like alongside last year's Duke team, the 1999 Duke team, the 2001 Duke team, and like the 2015 Kentucky team as the best teams of the efficiency era. And I said alongside, it's better than a couple of those teams. There is like, I'll go in, as good as Duke is this year. If somehow Michigan beats Duke in an impressive kind of way, they'll probably be the second best team in the history of the efficiency era. I mean, just wow. It's terrifying. So let me go through the numbers. As we said, they are number 1. They're the number 4 offense and the number 1 defense. Start with the offense. And the first thing you should know is this is a Michigan team that plays really fast. They want to get up and down the floor. They have the 7th fastest offense in all of college basketball. They are a really good shooting team. They hit 36% of their threes, which is not like a crazy huge number, but that's a good number. But their 2-point field goals, Michigan's hitting 62.6%, 62.6% of their twos, the second best number in all of college basketball. Duke, by the way, we're number 4 in 2-point field goal percentage. They're even better than we are at hitting their 2-pointers. And the reason why is because Michigan is just a great passing team. They assist on almost 62% of their field goals. They have the 19th highest assist rate in all of college basketball. They aren't like super, they're good, but not like super great at getting to the free throw line. They are, though, a very good free throw shooting team at 73, almost 74% of their free throws. It's hard to block their shots. They don't tend to turn the ball over very much. This is just nightmare fuel, all of it. They also are a team that tends to take shots very close to the basket. They have the 19th best 2-point field goal defense. 2-point field goal offense. Distance is what I'm trying to say. How far they shoot from the basket. 19th closest in all of college basketball. Now get ready for the real nightmare fuel, which is on the defensive end. They have the number 1 defense in all of college basketball. That's because it's almost impossible to get a 2-point shot against them. I mentioned that they hit 62.5% of their twos. They allow their opponents to hit 42.8% of their 2-point field goals. They allow their opponents to hit 29% of their threes. Michigan is somehow, and I don't even know how a team does this, they are somehow a top 10, almost a top 5 team in both 2-point field goal defense and 3-point field goal defense. How do you protect the rim and the 3-point line at the same time? That should be impossible. You usually have to give up something to get something. On defense, Michigan gives up nothing. Oh my God. And the reason they are such a great 2-point field goal defensive team is because this team blocks shots like nothing you've ever seen. Like we saw Syracuse. Syracuse is a good shot blocking team. This Michigan team makes them look like nothing. Michigan has the 4th best shot blocking percentage in all of college basketball, and also good luck getting to the basket against them. No team forces teams to shoot from further away than Michigan does. The number 1 best average 2-point field goal distance defense in all of college basketball. And one other thing, remember I was talking about assists, how Michigan gets a bunch of assists. They're really good at making a good pass and getting a good assist. It is super hard to get a good assist against them. They have the 11th best assist rate defense in college basketball. So you can't pass against them to get a bucket. You're going to have trouble getting off and shooting your 3-pointers because they allow teams to hit less than 30%. And if you find your way into the lane, they're probably going to block your shot. This is, like I said at the start, is nightmare fuel. Michigan's metrics are unlike, anything that I've seen since last year's Duke team.
I've been waiting for weeks for you to see the 2-point distance field goal because it is pretty nuts. Adai Mara is almost single-handedly responsible for that. He's a 7'3" guy who was somehow stuck on the deep recesses of UCLA's bench for 2 years. Mick Cronin's the most grumpy coach besides Tom Izzo in the game. That might be why. And then, of course, they surround him with 6'9" Morez Johnson, who most Michigan fans expected to platoon at center with Adai Mara. No. He's playing power forward and is in himself a guy who switches 1 through 5. And then Yaxel Lendenberg, the number 1 transfer in every transfer ranking that you could see in the offseason, came in expected to be the stretch 4. No, he's playing the 3 at 6'10" with a 7-foot-plus wingspan. He's a guy who's going to be a lottery pick for the exact reasons that you just mentioned underlying those metrics. He affects the game at the rim defensively, and he affects the game defensively on the perimeter with his length.
Hey, Scott, I'm going to stop you because you're getting into the players, dude. We're going to do that in a second. Donald, give me one more comment, then we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to hear from Scott about all the players that are the source of this nightmare fuel.
There's one thing that I really want to emphasize is the fact, Jason, you mentioned their tempo is super, super fast. They are one of the fastest teams, as you mentioned. They only have 4 games under 70 possessions. So They're really playing go, go, go. And it's funny because John Shire has talked ad nauseum about the fact that he wants our team to go a bit faster. This is a game where pulling them down into the 60s might be the play as opposed to running with them into the high 70s or 80s.
Yeah, by the way, they had a game against USC where they got to 84 possessions. Like that's, God, they're moving up and down the floor a lot. All right, look, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, as promised, Scott's going to tell us all about the players that we need to be on the lookout for Michigan. It happens to be their entire roster. So we'll have that in just a moment.
This episode is brought to you by Peloton. Break through the busiest time of year with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. With real-time guidance and endless ways to move, you can personalize your workouts and train with confidence, helping you reach your goals in less time. Let yourself run, lift, sculpt, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
You saw the game-winning play once, but have to replay it 3 times on the way back to the hotel. Because some moments don't end at the buzzer. Life's a trip. Make the most of it at Best Western. Book direct and save at bestwestern.com.
President's Day savings are happening now at the Home Depot with up to 40% off select appliances. Looking to upgrade your fridge? Check out LG's newest model, serving up ice in all kinds of styles. Cube, crushed, craft ice, and now new mini craft ice straight from the dispenser. From cold brew to fizzy favorites, these refrigerators will have you entertaining like a pro. Shop President's Day savings and get up to 40% off, plus free delivery on select appliances like LG at the Home Depot. Free delivery on appliance purchases of $1,498 or more. Offer valid February 5th through the 25th, U.S. only. See store or online for details.
My day kicks off with a refreshing Celsius energy drink, then straight to the gym. Pre-K pickup, back home to meal prep. Time for my fire station shift. One more Celsius, gotta keep the lights on. When the 3-alarm hits, I'm ready. Celsius. Live, fit, go. Grab a cold, refreshing Celsius at your local retailer or locate now at Celsius.com.
Your little one grew 3 inches overnight. Adorable. Also, expensive. Sell their pint-sized pieces on Depop and list them in minutes with no selling fees. Because somewhere, a dad refuses to pay full price for the clothes his kids will outgrow tomorrow. And he's ready to buy your son's entire wardrobe right now. Consider your future growth spurt budget secured. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste. Payment processing fees and boosting fees still apply. See website for details.
All right, back from the break here on the latest edition of the DBR podcast, DBR Bites. Scott Rich, it is your turn. You have watched virtually every Michigan game this year. Tell me who I need to worry about. And is the answer everyone?
Unfortunately, yes. So I think this makes sense to start with the player who Duke fans are going to be most familiar with, who is Elliot Cadeau, a man who is the point guard for our hated rivals 8 miles down the road for 2 years. If we remember, Elliot Cadeau was a player who every time we played him, the game plan was make Elliot Cadeau shoot. Well, now if you make Elliot Cadeau shoot, he's a 40+% shooter from deep. I do not think anyone who watched the Duke Carolina game over the past 2 years would have ever put money on that outcome. Heck, the biggest Michigan fan I know, my dad, texted me 5 games in the year and said, I'm going to hate this Cadeau kid, aren't I? Because he can't shoot. He turned that around within the course of a few games. The thing that's important to know, despite how lofty his stats look, is that Elliot Cadeau is still the same player that Duke fans saw for 2 years, just more mature and more polished. And that goes for good and bad. He is one of the top assist men in the country. He's one of the top players on KenPom in assist rate. And even though his raw turnover numbers are low, he is still prone to big turnover games. And that is one of the ways that if you look at Michigan and you say, how do you beat them? You beat them by baiting them into sloppy turnover-filled offense, which they have been prone to do, which Elliot Cadeau in particular has been prone to slip into some of those bad habits. He has about a half dozen or so games this year with at least 4 turnovers on his own. The other thing that's important to note about Cadeau's role in this offense is that in the half court, everything runs through him. Part of why Michigan is so fast is because everything is a fast break opportunity for them. And when we talk about Yaxel Lindenberg, we'll talk a little bit about that. If you slow Michigan down into the half court offense, it really is Elliot Cadeau who is the primary creator if there is an offense that's sort of made from that first initial set. So for a Duke team that has great perimeter defenders in Caleb Foster and Dame Sarr, that's potentially a plus in Duke's favor. That's the matchup that if Duke comes out on top, you say, yeah, Duke won the matchup at the point. The other guy who is going to jump off the page the most is actually not Yaxel Endenborg, I think, even though he's going to be a lottery talent. It's Adai Mara because he's 7'3". He's the closest thing to Zach Edey that we've seen in the college game in the couple years that Zach Edey's been gone. He's almost the sole reason why that 2-point distance statistic defensively is so astronomically an outlier for Michigan. He just eats up the paint defensively. He uses every inch of that 7+ foot wingspan. He's, like you mentioned, one of the top block guys in the country. He also does something a little weird defensively, which I want Duke fans to know before the game. If he gets switched out onto a 3-point shooter, you're going to see him jump straight in the air with 2 arms above his head and not try to block the 3-point shot. It's a weird little nuance that the Michigan staff picked up from the NBA game, from the Celtics, called the Cornet contest. And it's something that they have coached into Ademara and the other bigs to essentially say, do not foul 3-point shooters. You're not going to block that shot. Get into their eye line. It's weird the first time you see it. You will say, what the heck is that guy doing the first time it happens? But it will happen during this Duke-Michigan game, and it is something that is specifically coached into this team that they picked up from the pro ranks.
You know who does that a lot in the NBA? It's Victor Wembanyama. Like when he joined the league, that's what he has been doing because, like Mara, he's 7'11", and he can jump straight in the air. And it's not necessarily just about the sight line; it's also about altering the trajectory of the shot. Because if you have to shoot over a guy that is standing reaches 9'8", you shoot over that. You're trying to shoot basically 15 feet into the air. You know what happens? Shots fall short. And when shots fall short, they're easier to rebound. And that's how Michigan could go the other way.
The other thing to note about Mara defensively, as good as he is, as much of a positive impact as he's had on this Michigan team. In Michigan's one loss, Wisconsin took advantage of Ade Mara, and they took advantage of him shooting from the perimeter. He has a real challenge guarding stretch fives. He also almost exclusively plays drop coverage in the pick and roll. If just like Elliot Cadeau is one of the driving factors behind Michigan winning, if Duke wins, it's going to be in part because they took advantage of Ademara's weaknesses defensively. I think you're going to see a lot of 4-5 ball screens to try to get Ademara switched on to Cam Boozer. Cam Boozer can win that matchup off the dribble 9 times out of 10. I also think if Duke wins this game, there's going to be at least a 3 or so made from Malik Brown and Pat Gongba because Ademara is going to let them take wide open threes on the pick and pop. That's just not something that is in his game as the Michigan staff has coached it for him to contest. The last guy I'll mention from the highlight is the guy who is on the marquee for Michigan. That's Yaxel Endenborg. He's going to be a lottery pick. He might be the one lottery pick that's not a freshman in this loaded freshman class. He makes plays defensively that, and I will draw hate, I am sure, for saying this, he makes Cooper Flagg-esque plays defensively. He blocks shots that I have only ever seen Cooper Flagg get to at the college game. You could watch the end of the Purdue game last night in a game that was basically decided. He comes out of nowhere, blocks from behind, perfectly clean, a Trey Kaufman-Wren, essentially a dunk. He does that on the regular. He is a fantastic help side defender. I can't imagine he'll be matched up one-on-one with Cam Boozer a lot. But whether Michigan contains Cam Boozer is going to rely a lot on Yaxel Endenborg providing that double, providing that help side defense on Cam. He also has some pretty gaudy offensive numbers. He's one of the most efficient offensive players in the country. He's a top Ken Palms, player of the year metric in that massive tier below Cam Boozer. When you watch him play, though, he does not beat you one-on-one. He beats you in transition because he is a one-man fast break. If he gets the rebound, he has the handling chops to take it down the court himself. And he gets a lot of good looks off of the flow of the offense. But he is not a guy a traditional college basketball star who is going to beat you one-on-one. He is not going to ISO ball you. He is not going to go get the ball in the post and just take a guy one-on-one like we're so familiar with Cam Boozer. So as counterintuitive as it might seem, if Duke is forcing Michigan to rely on Yaxel Lendenberg late in shot clocks in one-on-one possessions, especially if it's against the guy like Dame Sarr, even if he gets some of those buckets, that is a win for Duke because that is one of the least efficient offensive options on a Michigan team that you mentioned, Jason, is one of the most efficient offensive teams in the country.
All right, let's get to Donald and the matchups and the things to watch. Mr. Wine, it has to start with Dame Sarr, his length against Elliot Cadeau, and if Dame can slow down the Michigan half-court attack, right?
Yes and no. I think you have to even blow it up a little bit further. The difference in this game could come out of the backcourt. The backcourt matchups, if you think about the front court of Michigan versus the front court of Duke, it's pretty even, right? They're two of the best front courts in the country. If our backcourt can outmatch theirs with the length, with the defense, with the suffocating style of defense that we exhibit on guards, and it's not just Dame Sarr, it'll be Caleb Foster. It will also be guys off the bench like Nick Hemenian. Like, you need those guys to be on their P's and Q's on defense, because if they are, that can be the real difference in this game. If you imagine that the front courts play each other to a draw, our backcourt can be the difference in this game with their length, with Sarr's ability to suffocate the ball handler or take somebody completely out of the game. I think that is a very big thing to watch, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that transpires throughout the whole game. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, I just want to say, I think it's going to be an interesting subplot of the game of who Dame Sarr actually guards. He may, by just pure necessity, have to guard Yaxel Lendenborg, at least at the start of game when the three big starting lineup is out there, because Isaiah Evans versus Yaxel Lendenborg is a little bit of a mismatch that Lendenborg could take advantage of. One of the subplots of this game, I think, will be how does John Shire manage that matchup, and can he switch Dame Sarr onto Elliot Cadeau when Michigan only has two bigs on the floor, which is for, more than 50% of the game, despite who they start.
The other aspect of that is, and look, I'm not saying that that Isaiah won't play a lot, but Nick Hemenia could be really useful. Nick Hemenia is a guy I think who can, he's got the size and the physicality to be able to potentially match up a little bit with Yaxel Lendenborg. But I agree with you. When I was looking at this game, one of the first things I saw was I was like, who's gonna guard their All-American? Because I don't think Isaiah Evans is a good matchup for a 6'9", 240 guy.
So I think it leads myself to the next big thing to watch. You guys have mentioned their front court and how big and lengthy they are. One thing Michigan doesn't do is keep guys in the game when they have two fouls. And as Scott mentioned, it's because they have 9 deep. They're running so fast that there's no point in keeping a guy in with 2 fouls when you have a fully capable bench ready to come in at a moment's notice. So can we get Lendenborg, Mara, or Johnson out of the game with foul trouble? And in the case of the latter two, they will get into foul trouble. Mara, I think, fouled out the other night against Purdue. Morris Johnson fouled out the other night against Purdue. If one of those three has to sit the rest of that first half because of foul trouble, their length and their height goes away, right? It is neutralized pretty quickly because the bench that they normally play aren't guys that can match that length. They can't match that height. So, and especially in case of Mar, right? Like Mar 7'3". If you get him out of the game, that's just a hole that's missing for them on both offense and defense. So can we get one of those guys into foul trouble? It's going to be real interesting the first 5 minutes how the referees officiate this game. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but it's hard to kind of manage these two front courts and how they play against each other. So that's going to be something to watch. Can we hit open shots? Here's a stat for you. Since December 14th, Michigan has only allowed one team to shoot above 34.4% from three. And that was Wisconsin, the game they lost. So if we're able to hit some open shots early, that puts pressure on their defense. And again, it has to stress them out just a little bit further. Maybe, as you mentioned, Scott, you may have a guy try to take a chance on a three, try to block him. Now, the last thing that I have is the battle of the benches. As we've mentioned, the bench for Michigan is productive. They come in the game, they play a lot of minutes, they're able to get out, and they're also able to produce both on points and on defense. If our guys are able to match that production, and again, play this with some of these areas where there are strengths on both sides, where both teams are strong, and there's a lot of those positions where we go, hey, it's a toss-up. Cool, let's make it a toss-up. Because I think it goes back to the original point is there is one place where I think we have a true advantage, and that is in the backcourt. And if our backcourt can outmatch theirs, if we play those other intangibles to a wash, you have one intangible left that's going to help you win the game.
I got one other thing I want to ask you guys. Who's going to win? What's your prediction for the game? Scott, I'll let you go first. Don't just give me a score, but give me sort of how you see the game shaping up.
So I think the easiest way to say this is Duke wins if. I think Duke wins this game if Caleb Foster scores in double digits. I think if Caleb Foster is taking advantage of a smaller guy in Elliot Cadeau guarding him, Duke wins this game. I think Duke wins this game if Malik Brown and Pat Gongba combine for 2 made threes. Because again, that is something that Michigan is going to allow. We've seen a concerted effort from Malik Brown to shoot threes over the last few games. That is not by accident. John Shire is very obviously telling Malik, we want this on tape that you are going to take these open threes. We have confidence in you making them. If Duke makes a couple of those threes, that could be the turning point in the game. I think the last thing is if Duke controls the tempo, they win the game. In the half court, Michigan is prone to turnovers. In the half court, Michigan is prone to some bad three-point shooting nights. Their net three-point shooting statistics on the year are great, but in the close games, the games that they maybe could have, should have lost, that three-point shooting has been subpar. If Duke can slow it down, like John Shire has been doing over the last few games, that bodes extremely well for Duke, and that takes away from Michigan their superpower, which is the ability to get out in fast break and to get wide open threes for a guy like Elliot Cadeau. Those are 3 things that are going to be hard to do against this Michigan team. I think in isolation, Michigan is the better team on paper right now. But Duke has the best player. Duke has the best player on the court in Cameron Boozer. And you put those 2 things against each other, it's going to be a coin flip. I think that Caleb Foster has a Caleb Foster game and Duke wins a nail biter. I just think the Caleb Foster versus Elliot Cadeau matchup is the one outlier matchup that can go Duke's way and can drive a victory.
All right, Donald, what say you?
You know, Jason, on the last episode, which was, the last recap where we had a lot of fun talking about blasting Syracuse, I said, I don't care about close games. I want every game to be a blowout. I am not prepared for this to be a blowout. I'm prepared for this to go down to the very last play. Let me at least start with 3 predictions. Here are the 3 X factors for Duke in this game on Saturday. Pat Gongba, Dame Sarr, and Caden Boozer. Caden Boozer off the bench, again, providing some defense where he's been improving quite a bit lately, and also providing on the attack, on the offense, providing that distribution that Michigan normally doesn't allow. If he's able to get 4 or 5 assists in this game, that means Duke is doing pretty well in the backcourt. I think this comes down to it being a 2-point game, and the winner of this is not someone who makes a shot, but it's someone who makes a defensive stand, and that man is Dame Sarr. A strip at the end is going to have us win by 2 points. Don't quote me on that. Don't run to your nearest place of
Don't quote you on that. That was oddly specific, sir.
Sometimes, Jason.
Scott, if it happens, he's gonna be talking about it for years.
And if it doesn't, no one will remember. That's a perfect prediction.
What have I said on this show before? When I'm right, I'm right, and when I'm wrong, I could have been right. So I'm right because I could have been wrong. That's the mantra of life. So yes, it's oddly specific, but It would be great if it worked out. It also would be great if we won by 30, just to give Michigan a taste of what they've been giving the rest of college basketball all year. I don't think it's going to come down to that. I think it's going to come down to that defensive stand.
I can't believe that neither of you said the key to the game was Isaiah Evans hitting 3 3-pointers. Wait, what's going on? Isaiah's like,
that's the easy one. That's the easy pull. We're undefeated when he does that. So
yeah. Wait, just so we're clear, in the last 3 games, in his last 3 games, Isaiah is 12 of 21 on 3-pointers. I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. If Isaiah Evans hits 50% of his 3-pointers, Duke's in good shape in this game. Which is
I did say that 3-point shooting, hitting open shots is key, because the only team that has done that against them was Wisconsin, and that's the only team that's beat them so far this year.
All right, you're both going to be at the game, right?
We are. Yes.
I will be there in my Duke blue amidst a sea of maize in all likelihood, thanks to tickets through Michigan connections. So you might see me on the telecast sticking out like a sore thumb. I have to imagine if there's a big run, they might pan to the one Duke fan amidst all the Michigan fans. That may be me, ladies and gentlemen.
And
I love it.
It's funny, Scott and I have not met in person yet. We've done this.
Exactly.
We've been on these shows for so long. We have not met in person yet. So I am looking forward to that, sir. I have a credential for this game. I also have tickets for this game. I'm not quite certain yet which one I'm going to use, but I'm going to be in the building nonetheless.
Well, the last thing I'll say about all this, and then we will wrap up, is you only get to be in games like this if you're really damn good. And regardless of the outcome, this is the big game in college basketball this weekend, arguably the biggest game of the year in terms of hype and anticipation and all that other stuff. And that's because Duke is damn good. Regardless of how this turns out, Duke is damn good, and so is Michigan. Donald, I'm going to give you final word.
Jason, we were talking the other day about the first 16 seeds that the NCAA usually puts out 1 month before the NCAA tournament. That deadline came and went. I think they're waiting for Saturday night, because with this game,
they're announcing it Saturday afternoon. They're announcing it Saturday at 1 o'clock. So beforehand, we will know.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's a Final Four type of day. Duke versus Michigan, Houston versus Arizona. Really, really going to be a real fun day of basketball. Hopefully, we are very happy at the end.
And by the way, the winner of this game, I'm going to go ahead and say it now, based on Houston losing, based on Arizona losing, the winner of this game is going to be number 1 next week. The number 1 team in the land will be determined by the game Saturday evening between Duke and Michigan. With that, we wrap. Yeah, what?
I was just going to say, you could go farther. This game will determine the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament in all likelihood.
Well, I mean, in all likelihood, yeah. But I can tell you for certain, whoever wins this game is going to be number 1.
I ruined the last word. Thanks for having me back on the podcast, guys.
With that, we wrap it up here on the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Join us over the weekend on Sunday. We'll have Scott back on as Scott and Donald and I recap the game against Michigan. It's going to be a ton of fun, regardless of how it turns out. Until then, here's the Duke Band playing us out and taking us to the nation's capital for a huge, huge matchup.